Welcome to episode number 270 of the Marine Layer podcast. We'll give you our takeaways from the Mariners series versus the Astros as they kick off this second half. There's also been some Eugenio Suarez trade discourse over the weekend that we're going to have to comment on because the deadline's coming up, guys, and I can't think of a better fit.
Here's your guys' reminder. If you want to stay on top of all of our stuff, you can find everything over at our website, marinelayerpod.com. Including our episodes, audio and video. If you're listening, please make sure to go download these episodes and rate and review. Leave it 5 stars. Like, comment, subscribe over on YouTube. If you're on our website and searching around, you can find a bunch of different stuff along with the episodes, you guys. There's merch. There's our Patreon, which we love to have you guys sign up for. And you can follow. So again, everything combined from everything we just mentioned is over at our website. It really is a one-stop shop. You can also find us across social media at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording on Sunday evening, July 20th. Before I comment on any of the baseball stuff, Lyle, I want to give it up for the people. I thought the crowd this weekend at T-Mobile Park was fantastic. Think of how many people we met this weekend. Would you agree? We met some great people this weekend. The volume was insane.
Yeah, we met a lot of people. I don't know, was it that different from a usual weekend?
You know what helps and why I want to give it up for the people? Because we had our first post-game live show at the Hall in Occidental. Post-game live show on the day of a game, and the turnout was fucking awesome. Excuse my language. It was unbelievable. Did you not have fun shouting Ronald Acuna Jr. out on Occidental Avenue? I had a blast doing that.
That was great. No, the show was a blast, and that's the format of the show we really hoped to do all along. But now that Occidental Hall is open, it gives us the opportunity to do more of those and interact with a bunch of people. And yeah, the show was a blast on Friday night. So hopefully for more of you that are at weekend games, which we know is a lot of you, that when we keep doing these down the road, you'll be around to show up to them because it was really fun. And this is what we really hope to do going forward.
Shout out to our intern, Dylan Shobe. He got a photo of me. I had the mic in one hand. I was holding a can of Corona screaming out at Occidental Avenue, and I think that photo there, maybe I'll tweet it out. Tomorrow. We got some good pictures there that we'll showcase from the show on Friday. That just, I think, fully encapsulates the energy of the show we try to bring to these post-game shows. We'll have 2 more this season, guys. 2 more opportunities in season to come see us live. It'll be at the Hall in Occidental, so I would really recommend coming to one of the next 2 if you want to see that in season at this point. At and around the ballpark. So that'll be fun. But I think that energy right there very much encapsulates it. And it was a lot of fun. So it was a fun weekend at the ballpark. And well, the team did, I would say, technically play well. This is the weird part of how the series is structured, where the Mariners play by far the worst game of the series here on Sunday. So when we do our reaction, we're sitting there in the stands today with our friend Chase, giving a reaction to a game in which the Mariners allowed 11 runs, in which Brian Wu started, which just kind of raises your eyebrow. But they did take 203 from the Astros, so that's where you sit and think, okay, should we be being this negative? Or what if they won on Sunday and they had this game on Saturday instead? Like, there's all these other things that we can think about with this and how it works out. But yeah, today was, in summary, today was not great.
Wait. Which direction do you want me to go here? That was a lot of thoughts all at once into a microphone.
Let's do today.
Yeah, not good. Can you sit here and be that upset? You can, because, look, I'll say the same thing that I said in our reaction. I will preface everything I say, with they won 2 of 3. They won the series. It was a good weekend. It was a very good weekend. Because the Mariners took 2 of 3 from a team that is above them, that they're chasing in the AL West. They got off to a hot start in the second half. They've won 5 of their last 6. All good things. That was a chance to change their season here on Sunday, and they essentially let it go down the drain. They had a 3-0 lead. Wu was dealing, and then they totally flipped the script, and the Astros just went on an absolute surge. Yes, you have every right to be mad with how that game went today, because 4 games back and 2 games back is a hell of a lot different for a team that hasn't won a division title in 24 years. If you are not happy with how that went today, and as a result, how the standings now shake out, yeah, like be mad. Go ahead. I was not happy at the end of that game on Sunday.
And it's different commenting on this game at the end of July, closer to the trade deadline, as opposed to April. So you mentioned the 2-game swing. There's also the fact of we're staring at the season series with these two. If it comes down to the end of the season, you want the tiebreaker with the Astros in case you have the same record as them and you want to win the division instead of be a wild card team and you end up with the same roster, which, by the way, I mean, the Astros suffered another injury this weekend in Isaac Paredes, and their manager comes out after the fact and says, yeah, his hamstring does not look very good at this point. We're sitting there looking at this Astros lineup on Sunday and thinking, how in the world can the Mariners not catch this team at this point? It makes it more realistic with some of the guys they're trotting out that the Mariners, if they play well, can go track this team down, which is why you need to take an opportunity when Brian Wu is on the mound to not go and give up 11 runs and win a game on Sunday, in which I think it's favorable. And also, think of the fact that, the Mariners did what they were supposed to do against Hunter Brown. For some reason, they keep hitting aces. I don't understand why, but the best pitchers in baseball face this Mariners lineup and somewhat lose, and the Mariners do their job, and they jump on Hunter Brown early, and they run his pitch count up, and they score 3 early runs, and it's looking great. And then you would say an Isaac Paredes-less Houston Astros team scored 11 unanswered. 11. The only thing missing from the game, Lyle, was a Cooper Hummel home run. That was it.
Considering Christian Walker hit one and our guy Taylor Trammell hit one, yeah, we were really only missing a Cooper Hummel home run.
Dude, shout out Tram. He had 3 of 3. He was 3/4 of the way to the cycle.
Yeah, awesome. And with 3/4 of the way to a cycle and a walk. Which, by the way, I saw some people on Twitter I was about to get to this. I saw some people on Twitter pissed off that he said he was playing with a chip on his shoulder this weekend. If you're mad about that, kick rocks. Because what do you expect a player to do? Every player has a chip on their shoulder when they go up against an old team. Taylor Trammell should have a chip on his shoulder when he plays the Mariners. Show him what he feels like they missed. Shows them that show them that in his mind they made a mistake, or in their mind try to make them feel like they made a mistake. That's how you should play. That's how athletes' mindsets work. No, you shouldn't be mad that Taylor Trammell said that, because if that isn't enough, just so all you know, Taylor Trammell is one of the all-time unbelievable dudes in the game of baseball. I mean, it is almost jaw-dropping how nice he is. He is great with every person he interacts with.
And if you guys want some fun podcast trivia, he is the very first player we ever got on a microphone. The first. So he forever goes down in Marine Layer podcast lore. And if you guys listen to the rest of that press conference he was giving, or the scrum of questions and the answer he gave with that, he had nothing but nice things to say about everything, about the org and the city and the fans. He was complimenting. So I don't know what we're getting at here. He had a nice day. Congratulations, Taylor. Yeah, the team didn't take a chance on you. A different team did take a chance on you, and you made the old team pay. That's exactly what you should do. That is 100% what you should do.
And it's
There's
okay.
a lot of guys who come to Seattle and have a chip on their shoulder. Yeah, I mean, you could. It's been a while, right? But if Ketel Marte came out and said that, probably in 2017, 2018. But would you blame him?
No, it's the whole idea.
Yeah. Mitch Haniger, if he played the Diamondbacks, would say the exact same thing. Oh, you guys didn't want me. Yeah, I have a chip on my shoulder. I
bet you Gino felt that way when he played the Reds when the Mariners had him. Almost definitely.
Dude, I think Gino felt that way when he played the Mariners this year. We'll get to Gino. We'll save that. But absolutely that he had a chip on his shoulder.
Every athlete feels like that. Again, Taylor Trammell was an absolutely no wrong to say that for anybody that was on Twitter. And again, he's one of the nicest dudes you could ever meet. I don't care that he's an Astro. It is perfectly okay to continue rooting for Taylor Trammell. We certainly will. I mean, he is an all-time friend of this podcast. So, yeah. Anyway, game itself, I'm sorry, you can't blow that game. And I think the point that you hit on that's absolutely right is the point in the year that we're at. The Mariners only have 3 more games against the Astros, and it's not till middle to end of September. It's their third to last series of the year. They're in Houston, then they come home to play the Rockies, and they finish at home against the Dodgers, which, God, what a hell of a last week. I mean,
talk about the polar opposites.
I mean, talk about going to play at the worst municipal golf course you could possibly find, and then you turn around and then you go play at Augusta. That is what their last week looks like.
Better clinch against the Rockies.
Or just hope the Dodgers rest literally everybody all weekend. Anyway, you're now at a 4-game deficit instead of 2. It's a hell of a lot easier to make up a 2-game deficit over the next 2 months before you see Houston again than sitting back at 4 games. And yes, I know they're still in a wild card spot. And yes, they should still go at the deadline. And yes, there is still a way the Mariners can catch Houston in the end. But they made it a lot harder on themselves, man. For a game where they were up 3, hit Hunter Brown, and could have just kept the foot on the pedal. Would have been nice, obviously, to get more from Brian Wu in that game because he's pitched so well all year. But there was also it was a defensive disaster class on Sunday, too. I don't know what happened to JP Crawford there with that pop fly, but I mean, that kind of turned the tables.
And then, how did it feel to finally get a Christian Walker tweet off?
Oh, great. I mean, you knew it was coming at some point. By the way, Christian Walker here in the month of July has actually been really good. So I know his first half was not. But don't be shocked if he turns stuff around the rest of the way. Because he's not supposed to hit like this. But yes, again, I can already see all the people in our comments being like, God, you're being so negative. Why are you negative? They won 2 of 3, which is what people were saying on social media today, too. Again, that's why I preface all of this with they won 2 of 3, and it was a good weekend. It was. But you know what? You had a chance to make this season altering. Totally change the course of your year. And it was in the palm of your hands. That's why I'm sitting here frustrated. Because all year you've been trailing Houston, a team that you should have frankly jumped this year with the way their roster was, with the way your team set up. Now, they, of course, didn't even come close to adding enough in the offseason to really do that. Maybe they'll do it at the deadline. But you still had your chance today, and ultimately you did let it just go by the wayside.
I have one more beef with the weekend. You'll be shocked what the real beef is. On Saturday, the bunt.
Oh God!
And okay, and people are gonna rush. And before you rush to me and you get mad at me, can I just try and explain this in the most layman's of terms that it's not just the fact it's like a sacrifice bunt in extra innings where you're trying to get 1 run to tie the game. It's the whole thought process behind what's happening, right? So you have Jorge Polanco at the plate at this moment in the 10th inning on Saturday, and Polanco decides, with Dylan Moore, who came off the bench, by the way, hitting behind him, Polanco decides to give up his bat to let Dylan Moore hit. Does that make sense? Dylan Moore, by the way, guys, these are just the numbers. Since May 1st, Dylan Moore is the 9th worst hitter in Major League Baseball. Do I need to repeat myself? Dylan Moore, since May 1st, is the 9th worst hitter in Major League Baseball. Why are the Mariners forcing him to get an at-bat to tie a game? I know it worked out, quote unquote. It worked out because the ball hit the knob of his bat as he's trying to get out of the way, and it happened to go in fair territory. Awesome. The result was positive. The process was not. There's nothing positive about the process at all. That I can't wrap my head around why that was made.
That was sheer dumb luck that
yes,
worked
it was
out.
luck. And again, look, sometimes you have to get lucky. The Mariners are probably one of the unluckiest franchises in sports history. That's why they've never done all these things. And it's great that you get some luck, but that doesn't mean like the decisions which a human actually makes, whether it was Dan or Polanco who ended up deciding to put that bunt down. We've heard it could be either. Like, that doesn't mean that's good. That doesn't mean that's the right idea. And I could not get over that. I couldn't.
These are also just the numbers. Jorge Polanco in the month of July has a 1047 OPS. That was in the middle of Sunday's game, I believe, because he got another hit. He drove in a couple, and he upped his OPS. So, point being, his OPS in July is way over 1,000. Dylan Moore has been one of the 9 worst hitters in baseball over the last 2.5 months. There's no sound process for that bunt. None.
No.
Zero. I'm glad Cole Young got the hit. He clutched up. That was awesome. That was the best moment of his young career, and he got the Mariners a win. Guess what? Cole Young gets that hit anyway, and the runner still scores from second. He doesn't have to score from third. Oh, wait, sorry. I'm thinking of this bunt was an inning prior. It was in the 10th inning. Sorry, scratch that. Cole Young's hit was in the 11th. Yes, for Jorge Polanco to do that was crazy. And I don't know if it was him or it was Dan. I mean, I could buy in that it was very much either.
Mm-hmm. And if you want me to heap praise on some decision making, like I actually thought the bullpen decision making at that point of the game was correct. Instead of using Brash when they were behind, they used Brash in the 10th inning with a runner on second base, which I would prefer because you need the swing and miss stuff on the mound. And I think that's important in extra innings. Though I know Brash gave up a run. I thought the idea of that was right.
But he gave up the inherited runner. It wasn't really his run. So that happened.
Exactly. So his ERA didn't go up. But I did think that the idea of it was right.
Although, you can't plan for a game to go to extra innings, right? Like, they used Bizzardo in the 8th and it worked, which is fine. And it worked for this case because Brash pitched in the 10th. But usually wouldn't you want Brash there in the 8th?
But they were behind.
Oh, you're right. They were behind in that game. Yeah, so you're right. So the decisions that got made this weekend, bullpen-wise, were actually okay.
Fine. I just can't with the bunt. It just doesn't make any sense.
Right. No, not at all. There's zero reason that should ever be happening. Bunts shouldn't ever be dropped in general, like the two of us talk about. But to see that, good Lord.
Let's heap a little bit of praise here, since they did win 2 of 3.
I know. That's why we prefaced all this with they won 2 of 3. We said it was a good weekend. Cole Young, awesome. Luis Castillo dealt. Like, there's good things from this weekend.
Dude, Dom keeps hitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does.
How this is going to be a conversation as we get up to the deadline. Like, his value is about as high as it's ever been. How do you weigh whether or not you believe in this continuing long term and you want to keep on the roster, or you capitalize his value being at its highest? How do you balance that?
Oh, I think it's pretty simple. I think it's you're signing Kyle Tucker this winter, so you trade him.
Hard to argue with that one.
Yes. It is because there's no argument to it. Anyway.
I do think we need to get to the... sorry, go ahead.
It is something you're going to have to balance, and I think either argument is perfectly sound. If you believe that this is fully real going forward and you think Dom can keep some level of this up for years to come, not that he has to hit 310, but if he's going to hit the ball hard, if he's going to keep putting the ball out of the ballpark consistently, if he's going to OPS somewhere around the 780 to 800 mark, then yeah, you keep him because he's got all this club control and he's still young enough. Again, he's 27 and he's not going anywhere. Some guys just blossom late. But there's a very real world where the Mariners say, you know what, some team would be interested in this value now. Maybe we can use him in a trade package to get something that they feel like is even more substantial. If they were to trade him and a prospect somewhere to get Felix Bautista, to get Yohan Duran, I could certainly have my ears open to that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and maybe it'd have to be a good prospect if you're getting someone of that caliber, but that's the big league piece you send along there.
It's 100%.
I'm in the camp of while his value is highest, I think, because there are still some things with Dom that you can see pretty clearly. Still swings pitches very much out of the strike zone a lot.
To answer your question, yes, you are going to have to trade a real prospect if he is packaged in a deal. This is not me saying you're trading Dom Canzone and some prospect in the 20s for the Mariners to go get Felix Bautista. No, you would have to trade Canzone and another high-end guy. Maybe Canzone, Harry Ford, and another prospect to get somebody like Felix Bautista or to get Yohan Duran. But that doesn't mean it's not a plausible thought either. So yeah, again, I can hear both sides to this argument, but you are right that the downside to Canzone is he does still really chase some interesting pitches.
All right, I need one last answer from you before we get to this Geno discourse. Cal didn't homer all weekend. Is he cooked?
Yep. Derby ruined him.
It's over, everybody. It's over.
Yeah, I think he's going to be all right.
I think all the people were right.
I think just a hunch, Cal Raleigh's going to be okay.
Funny enough, he had his first non-home run hit of July this weekend. So some would say he's shortening back up.
That is actually crazy that all his home runs in July were only homers.
Yeah. And his stats didn't suffer at all. They stayed pretty much the same.
Huh? It's almost like batting average is stupid.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good segue, Lyle. Batting average being stupid. Let's get to this Gino conversation that has been happening a little bit over the weekend. I think the number one conversation you and I had at the ballpark with fans over the weekend was about Eugenio Suarez. Most of the people we talked to in person want Gino. Think Gino makes a lot of sense. There are some people who, might want another position more, but no one hates Gino at this point. I think you can find a good majority of Mariner fans who want Eugenio Suarez back with the Mariners. This thing's starting to pick up, it feels like. It does feel like as Gino continues to go out and slug, which this weekend, by the way, he hit 4 home runs. He had 2 home runs on Saturday, and he had 2 home runs recording here today on Sunday. He has 35 home runs on the season. An incredible mark for Gino. I think it's like kicking up the snowball a little bit on his trade value, and I'm sure the Mariners are keeping an eye on it, but the other teams are putting together their packages too. It's getting down to time where they got to start really thinking about this.
Well, there's already a package on the table for Gino. It's not from the Mariners. So let me just give proper credit to the Yankees Spanish radio broadcaster, because this was tweeted out today, or this was reported today. But Ricky Ricardo, who's the Spanish radio voice of the Yankees, said that there's a proposal on the table. 5 Yankees prospects are on the table for a package of Merrill Kelly, Gino, and Jalen Beeks. That's a hell of a package the Yankees would be trying to get in a haul to upgrade their roster, which the Yankees, as we're seeing, are very serious about making some real upgrades at the deadline. Now, the 5 prospects, it doesn't involve George Lombard, who's their top prospect, and it doesn't involve Spencer Jones, who's been one of their top prospects for a couple of years now and hits for real power, and he's been on a real surge in the minors right now. But the point being, other teams are starting to get in on this, and the Yankees may be the team the Mariners have to compete with the hardest to get Gino. So if they're really starting to put offers on the table, and it reportedly includes Cam Schlittler, who was dominating the Mariners during that Yankees series, the Mariners, man, I hope they're getting going, because other teams are.
What's noteworthy about that package, consider the volume. 5 prospects for 3 rentals. That's what it is, including a big league, prospect, but big league arm, given that he is thrown in the big leagues this season. Mm-hmm. That is somewhat of a measuring mark for what the Mariners would have to give up. If in the Mariners world, they would probably be going after Naylor and Gino. Gino first, but if they're going to package them both together, they're going to try and get Naylor and Gino from the Diamondbacks, right? You would think?
Yeah, although I feel like the Mariners may not even have to give up that much to go get both of them compared to what the Yankees are reportedly offering. Because to get big league starting pitching, especially somebody of the caliber of Merrill Kelly, that costs a lot. And they're trying to get these guys in a package. So I feel like the Yankees might have to pay more in this deal than the Mariners would for Naylor and Gino, just because Merrill Kelly is so highly valued. And he's had a good year as usual, too. So the Mariners will have to pay, but maybe not this much. Also, keep in mind, while the Yankees have 5 prospects on the table, it's not their absolute blue chippers. Again, it's not George Lombard. It's not Spencer Jones. So you're not going to have to trade Colt Emerson or Johnny Farmello for these guys.
And I don't think so either, but our friend Jage on Mariners Twitter made a solid point. Think about this from the Diamondbacks' perspective. They right now have 2 bats that are impending free agents. When free agents leave your team, you can extend them a qualifying offer. If the player's good, they'll reject the qualifying offer, and you get a draft pick that will become a prospect. And the draft pick can either be at the end of the first round or the end of the second round. Regardless, it's like Luke Stevenson, for example. That it was in that slot of picks is where you get it for Gino and Josh Naylor. That's sort of the level of player they're looking for. They're like, okay, we have these assets that we will have if we keep these players and let them walk. You need to give us this equivalent amount, if you want them from us. Otherwise, we get our prospects anyways. So the idea Jage was throwing out, like you said, it's not might not take the volume of prospects to go get Gino and Josh Naylor. The Mariners will not have to send 5 prospects to the Diamondbacks to make that work. It'll be 2 or 3, I would think. But Jage was throwing out an idea here about what the Mariners could possibly do to go get the both of them. He suggests the Mariners to get that value, send Durangelo. I'm going to try and pronounce this pitcher's name right. Is it Shi Shen? Is that right? Is it close? He's an arm in the low minors, a Japanese arm in the low minors for the Mariners. And
he's been pretty good.
Yeah, he has been pretty good. Mm-hmm. So it's the blue chip, Durangelo, a lower level prospect, and then another lower level prospect in Labrada. Mm-hmm. That, off the idea of the compensation of it, the value comes from Durangelo to get them to say yes. Again, you need to outbid teams at this moment. You need to flash something in front of them that keeps their eyes on you and is not looking at the Yankees package of 5 prospects at this point. So that's why you float Durangelo out there. And there's some thinking behind why Durangelo might be in there, but that's just an example Jage threw out there of what kind of prospect the Mariners might have to part with if you're going to go after both of them.
It's funny. We haven't had much of a chance to talk about this idea now that Cade Anderson is into the fold. But look, I'm not saying I want to trade him away like I'm looking forward to it. I'm not, because he's a really exciting prospect. But I'm surprised even over the last week we haven't started to think more about the idea of Durangelo getting traded, because it makes sense. It makes sense for a couple reasons, right? Number one, we know the Diamondbacks are looking for young big league pitching in exchange for some of the pieces that may sell. That's what they are seeking. They want young starting pitching. I'm sure they love young big league starting pitching, but young starting pitching in general. And look, Durangelo could get up by next year. He could be ready by at some point in 2026, so he wouldn't be that far away for the Diamondbacks. That's point number one. Point number two is that if you're going to pick between Ryan Sloan and Durangelo, I don't say this off certainty. I don't have any sources behind this, but it feels to me like the organization values Ryan Sloan at this point higher than Durangelo St. J. And a lot of third-party outlets, prospect rankers, evaluators, value Ryan Sloan more too. Think he has the much higher upside, think he's got the better chance to be a star pitcher in the big leagues, like his stuff better. So if that's the case, there's 2 points right in front of you. And then we get to point number 3, right? Point number 3 being, look at the starting 5 in the Mariners rotation and where their club control sits. Luis Castillo has 2.5 years of club control and a vesting option in 2028 if in 27 he throws 180 innings. So he's got club control. George Kirby would be a free agent after 2028. Logan Gilbert would be a free agent after 2027. Bryce Miller would be a free agent after 2029. And Brian Wu would basically be on that same timetable, I believe. Maybe he's a year behind because Bryce... No, I think they'd both be on the same...
I think it'd be the same.
I think you're right. So, point being, Bryce Miller and Brian Wu would be free agents essentially after 2029. In other words, that's a long time. All these guys are under club control. And if you want to add Logan Evans to that, his service clock just started this year. So he's got 6 more years of club control. And then you factor Cade Anderson into it and his 6 years of control when he eventually gets here. Where does that really leave Durangelo? I hope in some way or another it works out that he's in the big leagues and he's a number 2 starter for them and he's dominating and he looks awesome. There's also a world there's legitimately no room. And if that's the case, then he becomes a potential trade piece too. And I think that is further elevated now with the selection of Cade Anderson. And if that's true, then it makes a lot of sense that you could deal him in a package for Naylor and Gino.
I think it has less to do with future rotation spots and more just they have a lot of really good prospects. Therefore, you don't feel quite as bad trading one.
Right, but you're not going to trade Cade Anderson. And 2, if it's between Durangelo and Sloan,
you wouldn't trade Kate Anderson for Gino and Josh Naylor. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. Like, there are always players you could trade Kate Anderson for. They just might not be available.
Well, great. If the Mariners are going to go get Ronald Acuna, like, that's a different story.
Exactly.
But, yeah, it would. I'd be pretty surprised if he was traded. And if he was traded, he'd have to be a player to be named later because you can't get traded right after you're drafted anyway. There has to be some time that passes. So, point being, those are 3 very valid reasons there why the idea of trading Jurangelo might make some sense. And guess what? If you feel like that's a hefty package for 2 rentals, maybe you're right. Maybe it is. Maybe you don't like the idea of giving up a future number 2 level starter potentially for 2 rentals. But guess what? You are going to have to overpay at some point. If you want these players on your team, you have to find some way to get the Diamondbacks to say yes to you rather than the Yankees, rather than the Astros with Paredes going down.
Oh, God.
Rather
Can we
than
talk about that for a second.
Yeah, we can get to that here in a minute. But like rather than the Cubs, rather than the Phillies, because Alec Boehm's not having an otherworldly year at third base. The point being, there are true contenders that are going to be in on Gino. So you have to figure out how you get the Diamondbacks to say yes to not just trading him, but packaging him with Naylor. And the idea of Jurangelo St. in a trade might make some sense. If you're uncomfortable with it, I understand. I also say you have to go for it at some point. The reason I highlight all the club control of those pitchers is for all the people that are prospect huggers out there that say they don't want to give up anybody. I don't want to give up this guy. I don't want to give up that guy. I don't want to give up that guy. Well, it's okay if you want them in your organization. I get it. Again, Jurangelo's exciting, but you factor in the 5 in the rotation right now. You factor in Logan Evans and you factor in Kate Anderson when he eventually gets here. Where do the puzzle pieces potentially fit for Senja if he stays? I'm not saying it can't. I'm also saying there is a lot of pitching that with guys that need innings.
And there aren't guys like Gino and Naylor otherwise available. The caliber of those players, like they are the best first baseman and third baseman on the block.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want them, you're going to have to pay for them. I do have one more point to make, but before that, what are we doing if the Houston Astros acquire Gino?
Can you stall for a minute on that? I have an answer.
Oh, okay. So the background of that, as we mentioned earlier, Isaac Paredes had a pretty nasty hamstring injury. Pretty nasty hamstring injury. His Espada, the manager, said, it does not look good. I don't know what the timetable for Paredes is, and I don't think they want Gino for like years and years and years. But I don't think it'd be the craziest thing if you like tore your hamstring that you were going to be out for the rest of the season at this point. Therefore, they would go out there and get Gino, and it would all of a sudden make sense. What would annoy me the most is the Astros farm system legitimately stinks. Like Cam Smith, when they traded for him this offseason, when they traded Tucker, was, I think, one of their only real prized prospects. And Xavier Nyans, who they just drafted, a local kid out of Washington, the state of Washington, is already their number 1 prospect in their system because it's just not a very strong system. And it's like, you're telling me that team outbids you for Gino? That's going to directly hurt you this year? Like, it would drive me insane.
Okay, good. Way to stall. We got enough time. Here's what we're going to do. If the Houston Astros trade for Eugenio Suarez, and for those who are not watching on YouTube, you should be. We are turning into Frank the Tank if the Astros outbid the Mariners for Gino. I will literally lose my shit if I see that go down. You know what? You said it earlier in a text to me, so I'll just say it here for everybody listening. I'll one-up it even further than just the Astros trading for Gino. If the Mariners do not trade back for Eugenio Suarez and get them on their roster, that is a total abject failure by the front office. Because we haven't even spent much time on this episode hashing out how ridiculous that trade looks at this point, which it does. But if you then allow him to go somewhere else and not get his services back in Seattle at a position of absolute need, it's going to look ridiculous.
And you just rattle off the reasons like why the trade makes sense. Okay, number 1, Mariners have a pressing need at third base for offensive production. Yeah, Ben's good defensively over there, but they need offense at third base. That's number one. Number two, Gino loved playing here, and he really enjoyed the teammates he had here. Julio, Cal, did we see that hug he gave Cal at All-Star Week? Did we see that hug? Mm-hmm. How does it work out any better than that? Oh, and then also, nobody has more trade ammo than you. Need, fit, ammo. How do you let yourself finish in not finish in first if you have all three of those and the advantage over everybody else? Well, he's never played in New York. He's never played. You said he never played in Philadelphia, but he has played here. And man, all he did was speak highly of it. That's it.
Yeah, he also said at All-Star Week, "Part of my heart is still in Seattle." Which, what a turnaround of quotes from former Mariners this year at All-Star Week. He went from Teoscar Hernandez last year to saying, "That batter's eye sucks. I hated hitting in Seattle," to Gino saying, "I love Seattle." Yeah. And you said, I know you just kind of stumbled your words there for a second, but if you don't finish in first, you're last, as Ricky Bobby or as Reese Bobby would say. Because if you don't trade for Gino here, you ain't first, you're last. It's that simple. And by the way, for all the logical reasons you just outlined for why the trade makes sense, honestly, just speaking as a fan here, like, we are owed Gino at this point. Like honestly, a service is due and warranted back to the fans for how this trade went down when they dealt him away. Yeah. Like, they owe us. They dealt him away. He went off for 2 years. The Mariners combined for like no offensive production at third base the last year and a half. They owe the fans to get him back. Josh Rojas, I mean, look, all credit to his defense, similar to Ben Williamson. I mean, no offense after the month of April, really after the first 6 weeks.
Mariners third. So people always people say the process for trading Gino was because he had a down year in 2023.
Yawn.
Gino in 2023 was more valuable than the combined value of Mariners third baseman since they traded him.
He also has doubled the amount of home runs hit by Mariners third baseman over the last year and a half this season.
This season.
It's fine. It's fine. They needed to trade him away to dump his money, which, let's be real, they can say they thought he was cooked. They can say they thought he was going downhill. No, they salary dumped his contract. That's what they did. And then to make it even better, they took his money and gave it to Mitch Garver instead.
Mitch Garver, Luis Urias, and Josh Rojas.
That worked out really well.
See, it's okay to save the money if you go and spend it in a better place, and they did not.
Nope. But again,
then they did still spend money on third base and just got dog shit production.
The Luis Urias stuff really probably deserves more dragging through the mud. Like that is much more on the Leody Taveras line than we give it credit for. Because again, the guy was given $5 million last year. He played 40 games in the big leagues, and it's not for injuries. If he had been injured most of the year, what can you do? The guy would have gotten injured. No, he was so bad they sent him to the minors basically all year, and you gave him $5 million. It is Leody Taveras multiple years in a row. I mean, so this is why this doesn't make any sense. You say you want to salary dump his contract and you can't pay him, so you salary dump it, but then you take the same money and it's just like, oh, we're going to sign Garver, we're going to sign Urias, we'll give it to Rojas. It's like, well.
And, well, then it was we're going to cut down on strikeouts, and then they strike out more than any Mariner team ever has struck out.
So let me say this again. This fan base is owed Gino. They're owed Gino for all of that shit that just went down through that trade and the results you got. This team had 2 guys in 2023 that struck out over 200 times in Gino and Teoscar. 2 guys. By the way, there's never been a team that's had that. The 2023 Mariners are the only team to ever have 2 guys on a roster strike out more than 200 times in a year. They say they want to cut down on strikeouts after that, and it goes up. And you lose Gino. This fan base is owed Gino. Guess what? I'm a professional fan. I have no problem speaking this into existence.
And this is what I always say to people when we're walking up to this trade. And you're worried about prospects too, because I did have a prospect point I still wanted to get in there while we were on that subject, so I'll just bring it up now. Of all of the trades that Jerry Dipoto has made, let's say the last 4 years, Is there anyone you regret trading that's a prospect?
If you're thinking this long, the answer is probably no. The one that's going to come to mind, obviously, is the Luis Castillo trade, because those were the highest level of prospects dealt. But look at the results since then. Noelvi Marte's done nothing in the big leagues. Edwin Arroyo hasn't gotten to the big leagues. Levi Stout got traded back to the Mariners and then didn't even stay in the org. And then Andrew Moore, the reliever, I mean, he's not in the big league. So yeah, no.
And then I'm going to, because I've messed up his name before, I've gotten him mixed up. Brandon Williamson.
That was a different trade, but yeah.
Different trade, made the big leagues, but hasn't been memorable at all in the big leagues. And then Brody Hopkins and Aiden Smith, I think, are playing really well in the Rays minor league system, but it's like, as we said, the Mariners have more top prospects than anybody.
And Randy's WRC plusing like 150 this year.
So that's fine. Yep, they can have Brody and Aiden Smith. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the things you think about at this point. And can I preface a little bit of a Ben Williamson point here to understand where some people are coming from when they say they don't want to move Ben Williamson off of third base? I'm going to start by saying this. Ben Williamson's third base defense this year has actually been very, very good. It has been a plus. It has been much better than their idea at the beginning of the season of putting Jorge Polanco over there at third base and have him play. Clearly, that was not a good idea because it lasted 5 games, and they said, nope, we're pulling the cord on this. Ben Williamson's coming up. But the truth of the matter is, guys, is that Ben Williamson's offensive production at third base is just, if you want to win the division, is not good enough. There's not enough juice. I was making the point to somebody this weekend. If you have a hitter at the plate where you can throw the ball down the middle and you know they're not going to do damage against you, it says a lot about their offensive profile, and that's kind of how it feels with Ben Williamson at this point. He just hasn't shown at any real level of the minors, in college, or at the big leagues that there's consistent power in that bat. And when there's not power in that bat, yeah, okay, he's hitting 250. Cool. And people have referenced to us as proof that he is a solid offensive player. But then if you don't walk and you don't hit for power, it's just kind of hard to find that value elsewhere. Do you want to know another fun fact, Lyle? If we're on the topic of batting average. Gino has a higher batting average this season than Ben Williamson does.
How about that?
Oh, and he has 35 home runs.
That's a lot.
So
Ben Williamson has a 78 OPS plus entering Sunday. Like, guys, this is why you can't only look at batting average. And by the way, neither TJ and I are saying with Ben Williamson that by making this move, we're not saying send Ben Williamson back to the minors or saying that, like, you know, anything like that. All we're saying by making this trade is Ben Williamson probably just turns into the utility infielder if you trade for Gino, at least for the rest of the year, because I know he's only played third base in the big leagues, but he played a little bit of second and short in the minors. If you wanted to run him out over at those positions and gave him a little bit of time to learn it, I'm sure he could do it. So, yeah, I mean, like, Ben has a role on this team. Certainly you're going to need him come playoff time when it gets into crunch time. Maybe you need a pinch runner. You certainly need a defensive replacement. He'll have a role. There's no doubt he'll have a role. But you just can't have a 78 OPS plus hitting rookie at the hot corner spot at a premium offensive position if you're serious about going to win this division and make a true run in the postseason. You just got to find a way to upgrade, and Gino is such an obvious fit.
You cannot both complain that Gino is performing better away from Seattle and then not want to trade for him because of Ben Williamson. You cannot do both of those things.
Yeah. And by the way, Gino away from Chase Field, which is obviously a hitter's park, he's still WRC plusing about 120 this year, a.k.a. very good.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I'm glad that got stirred up this weekend because our deadline's approaching. We got a week and change. We have 5 episodes until the deadline. Yeah, 5 episodes.
So, a.k.a. 5 episodes until a potential ticking time bomb goes off?
That Friday episode, everyone better circle their calendars. Friday, August 1st, 3 a.m. Pacific time. You're going to want to tune in to the podcast channels.
If they don't do enough at the deadline. Well, you're going to want to tune in for every reason anyway, because either we're going to be fired up about the deadline they have and say that they killed it, they made the upgrades they needed, this team's ready to make a run, or we're going to sit here and say, well, you did nothing all offseason, and then you had an unserious deadline, and that ticking time bomb will go off.
Yeah. And they'll have all the prospects still. So that'll be an interesting conversation. But we got some more guys that we want to highlight over these upcoming weeks. We do have a couple of big guys we want to highlight on Wednesday's episode, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. We're pulling out all the stops. There could be some. I can't promise there are these big names available, but there are some teams that will probably sell that have very big names on their rosters. And yeah, you bet your ass we're going to talk about it.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. If we're talking about Kyle Tucker, Ronald Acuna, etc., nobody's off limits. We'll talk about anybody.
Also, can I shout out the people, man? How many Ronald Acuna comments have we gotten this weekend? Oh, that was awesome.
Dude,
that was amazing.
We got a few Kyle Tucker ones, too.
Yeah.
But we get those.
People are shooting for the stars.
They are. And we get a lot of Kyle Tucker comments, to be honest, thanks to us. But that's probably going to be more of an off-season project at this point, unfortunately, because the Cubs are very good. And the Braves, you never know. Yeah, anyway, we got more guys to highlight in the next couple weeks, and there will be some fun names. So tune in. It's going to be a blast.
Can I throw one last note in here before we wrap up, by
yes.
the way? I think we've undersold the Brewers, even though we said they were really hot coming into town this early part of this week. They're half a game out of the best record in baseball right now. So you know how we said this stretch was important? I think I was underselling the Brewers a little bit. They're actually the best team the Mariners are playing in this stretch.
Mm-hmm. Well, better than the Tigers?
Sorry, they're half a game behind the Tigers.
So pretty close.
Yeah.
Really, really close. Yeah, and guess what? The Mariners need to find a way to win on Monday because otherwise 3 losses in a row are upcoming. They will not be, I don't think they're going to hit Jacob Mizorowski on Tuesday. So, and I know they've hit every ace and they've found a way every single time to shock everybody. At some point, they're just going to run into a buzzsaw who just tears them apart. And Jacob Mizorowski, despite being a rookie who's barely pitched, I mean, for those of you that have seen him, you don't need me to tell you. For those of you who have not watched Jacob Mizorowski yet, I mean, you're in for something on Tuesday.
He throws 103 with a 96-mile-an-hour slider.
Well,
96-mile-an-hour slider. Brian Woo's fastball, by the way, was sitting below 96 in the latter parts of Sunday's game, if you want some context.
Well, what does JSN say? Good luck to y'all. So, that'll...
Good luck, y'all, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so let's find a way to win Monday. Another reason I thought that Sunday game was pretty important because, well, even still, sandwiched between Sunday and Tuesday is a Monday game against Brandon Woodruff, who just got back to pitching. So that is a little bit of a soft spot in this sandwich between Hunter Brown and between Jacob Mizorowski. So I think that Monday game is going to be important that they win. And Quinn Priester, who's going to pitch Wednesdays, had a really, really good year. I mean, he just blanked the Dodgers in his last start. So they're going to, they get some tough pitching in this series. The one soft spot's probably going to be Monday. Yeah. I hope they take advantage of it Monday. Yeah, oh, by the way, the Brewers in that stretch that they're on right now, they just swept the Dodgers. So
fun. Oh, it's so exciting.
Win these games, man. You know what? If they win this series, only more incentive to go get really serious about adding. They should be serious anyway, but I would hope that only puts the pressure on a little bit more if they win. Just, go get better. Go get real pieces. Go get Gino.
Go get Gino.
Yeah. All right, that just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. You can find all of our stuff over at our website, marinelayerpod.com. Episodes are all over there. Make sure to download, rate, and review 5 stars if you're listening. Like, comment, and please subscribe over on YouTube. And if you're on our website, you can do a bunch of different things as well. You can sign up for our Patreon. We would love to have you. You can go get your merch. We saw a bunch of merch around the park this weekend. Shout out Graham from Australia, who we met this weekend, who's got Marine Layer Pod merch and took it all the way from down under to the Pacific Northwest. That was super cool. You guys can all get your merch too over at the website. It's really awesome. And you can find us all across social media at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.